Chapter 256 Care About Child with Mental Issue. My God, she said, covering her mouth with her hand, surprised. Hearing her voice, William Walton glanced at the screen of her mobile. When he saw the scene on the screen, his gaze sharpened. Then he took out his phone and dialed Daniel's number. I don't want to see any more news about Laura online before dawn, so deal with it immediately. Yes, Mr. Walton. Inwardly she frowned. Am I? I've troubled you again. William Walton rolled his eyes at her. If you know, then stay far away from the other men. Then, who told you to give an interview to a reporter without discussing it with me? If you hadn't told the reporter about your hidden marriage, this kind of news wouldn't have come out, would it? William Walton looked at her. So this is still my fault? Anyways, you haven't done anything right. Everyone is responsible for this matter. She turned to look out the window and decided to shirk her responsibility. In fact, she was well aware that even if the news was dismissed, it would do no good at all in this situation. It was hard to fake this kind of video. The people who watched it had already given her their final verdict. Other people didn't know her relationship with Nick Anderson, so in their eyes, she was just a bad woman who put on a green hat for William Walton while enticing a rich young master. She sighed. What a troublesome social relationship. William Walton rubbed her head. In the future, stay away from that Nick Anderson. She said, I understand. Your tone doesn't seem to know, but it makes people feel very unconvinced. I don't have any. I'm sure, yes. She answered. I really don't have one. Then why did you sigh just now? She innocently said, I just feel that by deleting the topic of the news. I've thought of a phrase hiding it from my ears. Which is why I'm sighing. William Walton sneered. She raised her elbow and nudged him. What are you laughing at? I also thought of a word. What? William Walton poked her on the forehead. Guilty. What? Just now you and that Nick Anderson stayed together for so long and nothing happened? Hey, she said in a serious tone. What are you saying? What can happen between my brother and me? The thoughts in your head shouldn't be too dirty, William Walton. William Walton snorted. He was too lazy to bother with her. After all, she was stupid. This attitude made her feel even more uncomfortable. She pulled on William Walton's arm, making him look at her. What do you mean? He gave her a fake smile and said, Can't you tell? I'm caring for a retarded child. You. He pulled her into his arms and pressed her head against his shoulder. As a man, I won't argue with you. Whatever you say is correct. Come sleep for a while. When you get home, I'll call you. She raised her head, and just as she was about to say something, William Walton had already lowered his head and kissed her lips. From now on, you don't have to say anything else besides sleep. One word for one kiss, be good. Her face was flushed red. The driver was here. She snorted, closed her eyes, and went to sleep. However, it was strange to say that she clearly wasn't sleepy at all when she was in the villa. But now in his arms, she really was feeling sleepy, and it didn't take long before she was fast asleep. It was already 11 p.m. when they returned to the Walton family villa in Philadelphia. William Walton woke her up and accompanied her home to eat dinner. Only then did they return to their room and sleep in each other's embrace. The next morning, when the alarm clock rang, Laura woke up on time. Seeing that William Walton was not around, she went downstairs to eat dinner by herself and carried her bag as she prepared to go to school. When she reached the profound entrance, the butler stopped her. Miss Green, Mr. Walton said that he helped you request for a leave of absence and told you to rest at home for the next few days. Don't go out. When she thought about how chaotic it must be outside, she decided to just go upstairs to her room. She had just entered the room when her cell phone rang. Seeing that it was Judy Allen, she sat on the side of the bed and picked up the phone. Hello, good. I say, girl, aren't you being a bit too unkind? It's such a great thing to get married, yet you won't even share it with me? You actually let me know about it from the news. She said guiltily. I intend to tell you face to face. Anyway, I'm sad. Let me ask you, when did it happen? Chapter 259, Unbreakable as a Rock. Your reputation has already become like a mouse crossing the street, and you still dare to be so arrogant with me. She said I don't need you to worry about my reputation. You must have something to say by calling me, right? Hurry up and say it, or I'll hang up. Go to Canada. I've already asked Nick to help you with the paperwork. You can set off at the latest half a month later. Why should I? Do you want to stay here and be poked in the back? John Anderson said angrily. If your mother was still alive, would she have wished for you to lead such a life? Upon hearing this, Laura Green immediately became angry. She shouted, Don't mention my mother to me. What qualifications do you have to do so? Laura, the relationship between your mother and I wasn't from the very beginning. I dare to slap my conscience saying that the one who betrayed each other in the first place wasn't me. Yes, many things happened afterwards that caused me to become a bit crazy and hurt her. However, if we hadn't missed it at the beginning, we wouldn't have reached that day. Laura, there are some things that you wouldn't understand. My mom has already left, yet you're still slandering her. Laura, Enough, John Anderson. Do you think that with how things are, with just a few words, you can make me change my opinion of father? You've ruined more than my mother's life. You've also ruined my trust in human nature, my worship of my father, and my conception of my family. It's all because of you. I clearly love a person, but I don't dare to presumptuously pay the price. I didn't dare to respond to the love others felt for me, because I was afraid that if I loved them, until the end, I would be the one who would be hurt. Because of you, all those who love me, they will be disappointed. I finally found a man who's nice to me, but you always come out and stand up for me. John Anderson, what kind of heart do you have at this point in time? You don't want me to be happy. If you weren't my daughter, do you think I would care about your business? Look at what you've done to yourself now. Is that why you've been studying so hard all these years? What about your dreams? She laughed. My dream. Hey, when have you ever paid attention to my dream? I have paid attention to this. I know that being a teacher is not your real dream, but your mother's dream. So you want to do Daddy will help you achieve your goal? I'll give you the money and you can take it to Canada and start over. Whatever you want to do, you can do it, okay? That's ridiculous. You are really the biggest burden and stumbling block in my life. I hope that you will never contact me again in the future. I have no relationship with you. Please always remember this point. She hung up the phone and threw it on the bed. She exhaled, unable to calm her anger. She grabbed her hair with both hands. A moment later, her heart became slightly calmer. She lay down and curled into a ball. Mom, why did you pick such a man? Why did you create such a big problem for me? I would rather not have a father than to see someone like John Anderson who can disgust me with my life. Mom. In the afternoon, Zoe punctually came to William Walton's office, while Daniel stood at the side. William Walton asked Zoe, "In your hands, is there anything that can restrain that Annie? For example, the evidence when he was together with Tom." Zoe replied without thinking, "I do. Because I was angry, I secretly recorded Annie and Tom flirting in the office." Very good. Daniel has proof that Annie is framing someone for Betty Anderson. In a while, go out with secretary and meet that Annie. Whatever you need to do, Daniel will tell you on the way. Chapter 257, A Thief Calls the Police. Hearing this, Nick Anderson was startled. Soon after, he asked with a serious expression, "What do you know?" "Your Anderson family scolded Laura Green to be a bastard. But the truth is, you are the true bastard of the Anderson family. You are just a bastard. Where did you get the qualifications to be called brother?" Nick Anderson felt that, at this moment, even his breathing had become sluggish. This sort of feeling was as if someone had pulled his tendons and pulled his bones apart. It was precisely this person that was his sworn enemy. William Walton crossed his legs and looked at his opponent as if he was the victor. "Nick Anderson, don't think that I don't know about you. Just because you are close to Laura Green as a big brother? What exactly are your plans? Although she was innocent, it doesn't mean that I am stupid as well. You can't get her for your entire life. I promise." Nick Anderson slammed the table and stood up, staring at William Walton angrily. Between their eyes, the electric sparks seemed to be about to move. William Walton laughed coldly. Speaking of the Anderson family in the past, they did have some strength, but unfortunately, the old man from the Anderson family was unable to give birth to a useful daughter. And in your generation, the Anderson family, that's no longer a worthy opponent for me. Nick Anderson, no matter how unwilling you are, what can you do about it? Your Anderson family owes us Walton family. No, it should be said that the debt owed by your vicious mother is owed to us. I will let you see with your own eyes how the business empire of the Anderson family crumbled with a loud crash. I will also let you see with your own eyes the woman you love being happy in someone else's arms. I will make you remember for your entire life that you, Nick Anderson, are just a piece of trash. William Walton, don't go too far. William Walton laughed coldly. So what if I bully you? One must know that others do not know the relationship between me and Laura. Even if I were to tell others that the Laura Green is mine, what can you do? William Walton said disdainfully. Then you just have to give it a try, and it's just right. I'm still worried about how to make her hate you. That's a good method. Nick Anderson clenched his teeth. The man in front of him knew too much about Laura Green. He was like a ruler steadily calculating everything in his hands. In front of him, he had no chance of winning at all. However, how could he be willing to let this go? Of course not. He looked at William Walton, coldly stood up, and left without looking back. Heaven would never stop him. He would definitely think of a way to deal with William Walton. Nick Anderson's departure was tantamount to running with his tail between his legs. Very good. He was in a good mood. He got up, went back to his office, and called Laura. She was at home reading a book. This was within his expectations. I asked Butler to tell you not to randomly watch the news. Have you done it? I'm not a 3-year-old child, so I know how to avoid trouble, all right. Looks like you didn't see it. What do you want to eat for lunch? Upon hearing this, she raised her eyebrows. Do you want to come with me? Otherwise, did I hide such a beautiful wife at home to make her mildew herself? Laura pursed his lips. That's right, so much nonsense. I want to have something light. Let's be vegetarians today. It doesn't seem like your style, but it's up to you. He raised his wrist and looked at the time. In another 40 minutes, I will appear before you. You can begin to look forward to it from now on. She said, I'm not looking forward to it at all. You can do as you wish. She hung up. However, she still subconsciously looked at the time on her phone. It was already 10:30. She pursed her lips and smiled, then lay down on the lounge on the balcony and continued to read. At 11 o'clock, she got up and went to the washroom. When she came out, she unconsciously looked in the mirror and rearranged her messy hair. In the past, she hadn't cared about the details at all. But now, sometimes habits and signals from a person's subconscious can be quite harmful. Just like that, she unknowingly fell into William Walton's trap, little by little. At 11 o'clock, her phone rang again. She thought it was William Walton again, but when she looked again, it was Amy. She picked up the phone and said hello. Something happens. Betty Anderson hold a meeting. Originally, she told someone to bring me over so she could let me expose you in front of the crowd, and the worse she said the better. The person she found wasn't me alone, but Annie as well. I didn't promise her, so she kept me here and wouldn't let me go. But Annie was taken away by her. I don't know what she and Annie talked about. Earlier, in order to bribe me, Miss Anderson said that she would give me money. I thought that since she would bribe me in this way, it must be to bribe Annie as well. She may say something against you. What can we do now? She let out a breath. Amy, thank you for standing by my side. I will make it up to you. Stop talking about compensation. Hurry up and think of a way. These few days, public opinion has never been friendly to you. Don't let anyone splash dirty water on you again. Okay, thank you. After hanging up, Laura originally wanted to call William Walton first, but her phone sent her a piece of news. When she saw the name of the news, she immediately opened it. Inside, it was a video of Betty Anderson holding a press conference. Betty Anderson sat in front of the camera with a pale face. She looked weak, and her eyes were red and swollen. She held onto the microphone and said in a choked voice, regarding my feelings, I really don't want to repeat myself. I loved such a person all my life, and in the end, the feelings he'd given had been disappointed. I really feel tired right now. A few days ago I was just diagnosed with depression, so I really need some peace and quiet. So I hope everyone doesn't pester me anymore. I really can't give you any answers. Just as she finished speaking, a voice that hadn't been heard for a long time was heard from the crowd. It was Annie. Miss Anderson, I support you. The woman who snatched away your beloved man once caused me to lose my job, and I have fought with her before, so I clearly know that she was a woman who played the pig to eat the tiger. She was born with a heart of a snake and a heart of a scorpion, so how could someone as innocent as you be her opponent? Please, you must be strong. A reporter took the opportunity to ask Annie, Miss, what position are you standing on? I feel that Miss Anderson is very pitiful, so I want to speak up for her. Miss Anderson, we support you, and Laura will not have a good ending. When she saw this, she laughed heartily. Slut? Hey, a thief called the police. This Annie wouldn't think that she would be so easily bullied, right? Chapter 258 Husband, do me a favor. She was just about to log out of the video and make a call when she saw a hilarious scene appear in the video. Because of Annie's support, Betty Anderson supported herself up with both hands on the table. She bowed towards Annie, raised her head, and only said a word of thank you before fainting. The scene turned chaotic, and then the video ended. Laura rubbed her forehead and chuckled. Too funny. This group of people did not dare to accept the consequences. From the beginning to the end, they did not even mention her name. Instead, they had all directed their flames of anger onto her body. However, she didn't care. Her reputation was already very bad. How bad could it get? She affectionately dialed William Walton's number. William Walton answered and said, The car is inside. I'll be there right away. Mr. Walton, your wife has been splashed with dirty water because of your relationship outside. Tell me, what should we do? William Walton frowned. What happened? Hurry back. I'll tell you when you get back. In less than 3 minutes after the two of them hung up, William Walton pushed open the door and entered his bedroom. What's wrong? She told him about what Amy said to her when she called him, and showed him the video. The more William Walton read, the darker his face became. Anderson family really doesn't have a bottom line. She tugged on his sleeves and pretended to be pitiful as she said, "Mr. Walton, I have been wronged. Look, what should we do? I will not take this blame." William Walton doted on her and smiled. "Call me husband, your husband will help you settle this." She pushed away the hand that he was about to use to rub her head. "William Walton, you're so shameless. How could it be me? I didn't even talk to that woman. What does this have to do with me? Are you saying that you want to talk to her a bit more so that you can establish a relationship with her?" William Walton raised his hand and poked her on the forehead. "Don't be jealous. I don't even like this kind of woman standing by my side." He stared at the video on his phone and shook his head. "This video can't be deleted. After it's deleted, when I slap her face, it won't hurt that much." "What? You thought of a way to solve this?" William Walton said. "It's very simple. Since Betty Anderson spent money to get someone to discredit you, she will definitely leave behind evidence. As long as you can find out who she hired that. Who is it? Annie. Right, as long as we can find the proof that Annie was bribed, it will be very easy to prove their unsightly nature." But from the beginning to the end, this news never mentioned the warm name of William Walton and I. So what? This news has a strong sense of dominance. Even they didn't mention our names, it can easily be associated with us. In order to prove our innocence, we took the initiative to present evidence, to prove that we are not the people they mentioned in the video. And then we'll use their moral character to viciously slap their faces. "What should I do?" she asked. William Walton smiled at her charmingly, took out his phone and dialed Daniel's number. "Daniel, go and investigate Annie's account. You need to prove that this ill-gotten fortune is related to the Anderson family. Also, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, ask Zoe to come to my office," she said. "What are you looking for Zoe for?" William Walton smirked. "You'll know when the time comes. In a while, call Amy and ask her to come to my office in the afternoon to look for me." "Amy?" She pursed her lips. "Speaking of her, I still have one more thing to ask of you. You want me to help her with her work?" "How could you know?" "Do you still need to guess?" "I analyzed it based on my understanding of you." "She offended Betty Anderson for you?" "A petty woman like Betty Anderson would definitely not be able to keep her in the Andersons group. If she loses her job, you will definitely feel sorry for her and ask me to help you arrange it for his. That is within reason. So, Mr. Walton, do you want to help me?" "I'll help if you call me husband." She thought about something and shook her head. "That's not right. It would be troublesome if Amy went to your company." "Forget it. I don't need you anymore. William Walton gritted his teeth and said, "Call me husband, please. I will arrange for her to join Gates Group." Gates Group? The Gates Group was even more ideal than the Andersons Group. She looked at William Walton, her face red. She clenched her teeth and said, "Husband, do me a favor." Hearing this, husband William Walton felt his heart go numb. He stepped forward and pulled her into his embrace. Lowering his head, he began to kiss her. She was almost out of breath. This guy was too impulsive. She tilted her head. "You've squeezed your way into my stomach." William Walton lowered his head to look at her lower abdomen, frowning. "This child really came at the wrong time and has affected my blissful sexual life. Don't spout nonsense. The child is listening. If you do this, she will think we don't like her." William Walton raised his hand and caressed her stomach. "Daddy loves you." Dad. This word made her heart tighten. Although she had never enjoyed her father's love, her child under William Walton's care would definitely live a very happy life. She raised her head and looked at him. "William Walton, call me husband." "Listen to me," William Walton said in a carefree manner. "Go ahead." Her eyes were full of seriousness as she said, "You must be a good father. You must make your child the happiest child in the world, okay?" William Walton knew she was afraid of the history repeating, and then held onto her tightly. "In this world, no matter how many John Andersons there are, I, William Walton, will never become one of them. I will take good care of you and our children. Believe me." Nodding her head, she snuggled into his embrace. There were no doubts for her to believe him. "I'm hungry." William Walton let go of her. She really knew how to fall off the chain at this kind of romantic time. Shouldn't she come over and kiss him? "Forget it. You really eat more recently. What you just said, you would give us the whole world, and it hasn't even been 3 minutes, and you think it's because I've eaten too much?" William Walton laughed speechlessly. "This is just a small matter. I learned it from you. Am I that mean?" "You are meaner than me." The two of them talked to each other as they went downstairs to eat together. After lunch, William Walton went back to the company first. She felt sleepy. She went upstairs to rest. She was still awake when her cell phone rang. Seeing that it was John Anderson, she did not pick up. However, John Anderson did not stop until he reached his goal. If she did not pick it up, he wouldn't stop. She sat up and picked up her phone. "What do you want to do now?" she said in an unfriendly tone. Chapter 259, Unbreakable as a Rock. Your reputation has already become like a mouse crossing the street, and you still dare to be so arrogant with me. She said, "I don't need you to worry about my reputation. You must have something to say by calling me, right? Hurry up and say it, or I'll hang up. Go to Canada. I've already asked Nick to help you with the paperwork. You can set off at the latest half a month later." "Why should I? Do you want to stay here and be poked in the back?" John Anderson said angrily. "If your mother was still alive, would she have wished for you to lead such a life?" Upon hearing this, Laura Green immediately became angry. She shouted, "Don't mention my mother to me. What qualifications do you have to do so? Laura, the relationship between your mother and I wasn't from the very beginning. I dare to slap my conscience saying that the one who betrayed each other in the first place wasn't me. Yes, many things happened afterwards that caused me to become a bit crazy and hurt her. However, if we hadn't missed it at the beginning, we wouldn't have reached that day. Laura, there are some things that you wouldn't understand. My mom has already left, yet you're still slandering her." "Laura, Enough, John Anderson. Do you think that with how things are, with just a few words, you can make me change my opinion of father? You've ruined more than my mother's life. You've also ruined my trust in human nature, my worship of my father, and my conception of my family. It's all because of you. I clearly love a person, but I don't dare to presumptuously pay the price. I didn't dare to respond to the love others felt for me, because I was afraid that if I loved them, until the end, I would be the one who would be hurt. Because of you, all those who love me, they will be disappointed. I finally found a man who's nice to me, but you always come out and stand up for me. John Anderson, what kind of heart do you have at this point in time? You don't want me to be happy. If you weren't my daughter, do you think I would care about your business? Look at what you've done to yourself now. Is that why you've been studying so hard all these years? What about your dreams?" She laughed. "My dream? Hey, when have you ever paid attention to my dream? I have paid attention to this. I know that being a teacher is not your real dream, but your mother's dream. So you want to do Daddy will help you achieve your goal? I'll give you the money and you can take it to Canada and start over. Whatever you want to do, you can do it, okay?" "That's ridiculous. You are really the biggest burden and stumbling block in my life. I hope that you will never contact me again in the future. I have no relationship with you. Please always remember this point." She hung up the phone and threw it on the bed. She exhaled, unable to calm her anger. She grabbed her hair with both hands. A moment later, her heart became slightly calmer. She lay down and curled into a ball. "Mom, why did you pick such a man? Why did you create such a big problem for me? I would rather not have a father than to see someone like John Anderson who can disgust me with my life. Mom." In the afternoon, Zoe punctually came to William Walton's office, while Daniel stood at the side. William Walton asked Zoe, "In your hands, is there anything that can restrain that Annie? For example, the evidence when he was together with Tom." Zoe replied without thinking, "I do. Because I was angry, I secretly recorded Annie and Tom flirting in the office." "Very good. Daniel has proof that Annie is framing someone for Betty Anderson. In a while, go out with Secretary and meet that Annie. Whatever you need to do, Daniel will tell you on the way." Zoe replied respectfully, "Okay, Mr. Walton." Daniel brought Zoe and left. William Walton called Bob. Hearing that he wanted to arrange someone for his own company, Bob couldn't help but laugh. "Bro, how many people have offended you recently?" "About that, she's Laura's friend that needs your care. You arrange for her to be Emily Burke's immediate superior, and all of her salary will be paid by my company. Come on, she works for me, but you're paying. I am not that poor yet. Call her and ask her to come to work tomorrow." After hanging up, William Walton got busy. After half an hour, Amy arrived. Seeing William Walton, Amy was still a little scared and respectfully said, "Mr. Walton, you were looking for me." William Walton did not invite her to sit down. He only said, "Today there were 2 things I wanted to tell you. First, because you withstood the temptation and did not betray Laura Green, I helped you find a job. You can go and begin to work tomorrow." Amy was pleasantly surprised and bowed. "Thank you, Mr. Walton. Thank you, Mr. Walton." William Walton continued, "Secondly, there's a press conference this afternoon. There's something I need you to do. Please do your best, Mr. Walton." "I will do my best." William Walton smirked. "Wait for me at the door for a few minutes. I'll take care of it for you when Secretary comes back." All right. Perhaps it was because she was in a bad mood. Tossing and turning in bed for more than half an hour, she still had not fallen asleep. Thus, she got up and started reading. Ever since she was young, she had always been like this. As long as she was in a bad mood, or was unable to control her emotions, she would choose to use books and questions to force herself to calm down. Reading for more than 2 hours, William Walton sent a message. Watching the news. After she returned to line message, she found the headlines. 15 minutes ago, the Public Relations Department of Walton Group held a press conference in the media hall of the Waltons Hotel. William Walton did not appear, but the secretary represented William Walton and attended the meeting. Daniel was like a spokesperson for the news as he accepted the interview. Some reporters asked if Betty Anderson's news was related to him. Daniel remained calm. Mr. Walton doesn't know Miss Anderson, how can we talk about feelings? But it seems that Miss Anderson really loves Mr. Walton. There are a lot of people who like Mr. Walton. Do we really have to pay for all the women who have a crush on him? Mr. Walton has a wife, so his feelings for his wife are as firm as a rock. No one would use media to hurt their feelings if they wanted to think wrongly. However, someone had personally confirmed yesterday that Madame Walton's character seemed to be. The reporter wanted to say something but hesitated. Daniel smiled. The reporter had asked the right question. Chapter 260, Super Powerful. I wonder if you are talking about this lady? Daniel turned his head and nodded towards the black-clothed man in shades. The man in black walked to the door and opened it. The one who stood at the door was precisely Annie. As they had just went to Betty Anderson's press conference that morning, it was not difficult for the reporters to recognize her. The moment Annie appeared, the reporters all started to madly clap at her. Daniel spoke into the microphone. Miss, please come up onto the stage. Annie anxiously walked over to Daniel's side. Daniel asked, Miss, regarding this morning's matter, don't you think that we should clarify it with the reporters? Annie lowered her head and said with a low voice, Sorry, this morning. As her voice was soft, Daniel picked up the microphone and placed it beside her lips. I lied. When the voice was transmitted out through the microphone, Annie felt even more nervous. A reporter asked, Miss, please tell us the truth. Annie lowered her head and took the microphone. Previously, when I was working in Walton Group, because of some conflict arising between me and the intern and Miss Green, I was fired. From then on, I hold a grudge against the Miss Green in my heart. Later on, because of a few things, Miss Green helped me. Originally, I didn't want to harm her, but this morning, Miss Anderson's people found me and gave me $100,000. They said that as long as I could prove that Miss Green is a bad person in front of the media, and help her prove that the $100,000 would be mine. I didn't find a job and was really poor recently, so I just did something that was against my conscience. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have fooled the public. I was wrong, Annie said as she bowed in front of the man. The Laura Green in front of the screen was a little surprised by this scene. How did William Walton do it? Could it be he gave money to Annie? Just as she was wondering in the video, Daniel asked again, Miss, can you promise that what you said in front of the reporters this time was the truth? You know lying is a legal matter. Annie raised her hand and swore, I dare to swear to the heavens this time I definitely won't lie at all. Daniel turned to the black-clothed man and said, Please come out, miss. Very quickly, the black-clothed man went to bring Amy out. Seeing Amy, Annie was a little shocked. Amy took the microphone from Annie's hands, walked to the front, and bowed. Hello, everyone, my name is Amy. In the past, I was an intern at the same time as Miss Green. At that time, because I urgently needed money, I went down the wrong path and did some things that I shouldn't have done. For my future, I threw all of this blame onto Miss Green. But not only did Miss Green not blame me, she even helped me after I was fired from the company. All this while, I've always been very grateful to her. I am currently working in the Andersons group. Actually, Miss Anderson came to find me this morning because she had investigated the past grudges between me and the Miss Green. And she also wanted to give me money to slander the Miss Green. But I didn't agree. The reason why I am standing here today is to tell everyone that the truth is not something that can be performed by someone who knows how to act. I can use my personality to guarantee that Miss Green is a kind and good person. After she finished speaking, she turned her head to look at Annie. Do you admit to this, Annie? Annie nodded. Daniel took the microphone and spoke into it. Today, out of all the things that Miss Anderson has said to the reporters, not a single one of them mentioned our Mr. Walton and Madame Walton personally. However, the media had already thrown all the blame onto them. Madame Walton likes to live a peaceful life, the Mr. Walton dotes on his wife, as if she was his life, so he hoped to clarify everything that happened first, that Miss Anderson's predicament has nothing to do with the Mr. Walton. In the future, if the media friends were to involve the Mr. Walton and Miss Anderson, we can only pick up the legal weapons to protect our own interests. One of the reporters raised his hand high up, standing up and asking, Secretary, then, what about the matter that was exposed previously? Miss Green and the president of Anderson's group held hands and left. This question was outrageous. However, as William Walton's secretary, Daniel's reaction speed had always been very good. He calmly replied, "Then may I ask, do you have one or two male friends who can do anything for you?" When he sees you being surrounded by difficulties, he will pull you out of them without any hesitation. This is the end of today's press conference. Dinner is downstairs in the cafeteria. After he finished speaking, he led the group of people away. The video ended. She raised her hand and scratched between her eyebrows. A male friend who can do anything for her. This secretary's reaction was fast enough. She dialed William Walton's number. Soon the call connected. She praised, "Where did you find such a secretary? He's too reliable." William Walton frowned. Is he the only one reliable? Huh. Inexplicably, she said, "I mean, he performed quite well just now." Of course, Amy performed quite well as well. William Walton coldly snorted. "It looks like you're very satisfied with Daniel, even more than me?" She was emotionless. Could he even be jealous with his secretary? "Why aren't you speaking?" She pursed her lips and said, "What do you want me to say?" "You are jealous for no reason." "You woman," William Walton said angrily. "Could it be that you don't know that I'm easy to coax?" Was he? She really didn't feel it. Besides, she didn't do anything wrong, so why did she have to coax him? William Walton saw that she was still quiet and asked, "So the reason you called me was to praise Daniel to me?" "Yeah." "No. I am curious, how did you manage to persuade Annie to come out and tell her the truth?" William Walton scoffed, thinking that she was calling to praise his capabilities. This woman was very generous to the people of the entire world. Only she was extremely stingy to him. How could it be so difficult to praise him? William Walton, it's fine. How can we not be angry?" "If you don't want to bother with me, I'm going to hang up," William Walton said coldly. "Try it," she said. "Then tell me, how exactly did you do it?" "This is too amazing, isn't it?" William Walton raised his eyebrows. "Am I powerful?" When she saw his tone soften, she instantly understood that he was actually like a 3-year-old child asking for praise. Really? Enough. He didn't even have the appearance of a domineering iceberg president. That was why she kept feeling that the William Walton that she knew was different from the others. "Yes, you are very powerful. I have already mentally prepared myself and will be scolded for a period of time. But you threw this matter back onto Betty Anderson. In the blink of an eye, you are extremely powerful." Did he get what he wanted? If you enjoyed this episode, let me know in the comments what you liked the most. The next episode will be released when we reach 155 subscribers. So make sure to subscribe and hit the like button. It's completely free, but it makes a huge difference in supporting this channel and increasing its visibility. Thank you for watching, and I appreciate your support.